hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
And my presentation is visible, right?
Yes, yes.
So I'm ready to start then.
Yeah, please start.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, good evening everyone, and welcome back for the today's session on the continuous series on systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So I hope you had a fruitful discussion last week and you got an idea on basics of systematic review, what are they and what is the basic steps that are involved in the systematic review. And today we will be discussing on literature search. And before I go further, before I move to my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Rashid. Currently I'm a postdoc fellow at University of Utah in USA, Salt Lake City, and I have been part of Southeast Asia uh, Evidence Partnership. And before I came here, I did my PhD from Manipal in 2024, and I did my bachelor's and master's from JSS University, Mysore. And I have been part of many organizations like ISPOR, ISPI, and FCPI. So I have been part of many professional organizations as well. So this is a quick introduction about me, and now I'm moving forward to our discussion on this literature search. So before I move further, I will just recap like what is the whole process of a systematic review. It's a it's not a huge process, it's a huge process as well. So it depends on what topic you are working, what is your research question, and what in depth or breadth you want to understand a particular topic. So basically, as you know the definition, I don't want to repeat that. It's like as like you do your quick literature review when you do your kind of thesis work in your master's or PhD or whatever the thesis work which you do. You do a literature review, right? The literature review, how you do usually, you just go to Google or Google Scholar, and you put your topic which is related to what you are looking to, and then you pull out some a list of articles, and from those articles you will be summarizing some evidence. So that is what basically you do when you do your literature review. So here in the systematic review, what you are doing, you are almost doing the same process, but you will be more doing it in an organized way, with a specified protocol, with a predefined methodology. So that is the difference between a quick literature review and a systematic review. So if you see the whole process, this is a cross-sectional view of a whole systematic review process. You need to have a quick question, and when you have a question, before even you get into the your research, you just have a quick scoping search. Scoping search means like the same what I just told you, how you do your literature review. You go back to the Google or Google Scholar, and you check which are the papers are available, is there any good enough studies if I want to jump in into this topic. So that is just a kind of feasibility assessment where you do your cross check to see is this topic is doable as a systematic review, or if you are even planning for a meta-analysis, you will be able to see that is there any enough quantitative studies to conduct your meta-analysis. So that is what you do in a scoping search, and further you move into your, once you are okay comfortable with your topic and you are ready to move forward, you found that there are good enough number of studies, at least a handful of studies that you can use for your systematic review. You will be moving towards your complete protocol development, and once you have your protocol, then you will be doing your complete literature search, then you will be uh, doing your study selection, then like data abstraction and further steps which you will be doing. So today, in today's session, we'll be only discussing on literature search. And when it comes to the literature search, you need to hold on. Okay, so this all you might have been covered, and today we are going to talk on literature search. So uh, when it comes to literature search, there are two type of literatures which you need to look into in the systematic review. It's not like you just search in Google or Google Scholar. There are specific database which you need to look, especially when you are doing something in medical literature. Hold on, and let me connect my charger. So when it comes to the medical literatures, there are specific database which you need to search, uh, which is like a kind of thumb of rule, where we say that at least you should search three databases. So PubMed, or sometimes you call it as Central. So PubMed is a PubMed or Medline, sorry, PubMed or Medline, which is a mandatory database which you need to search. Then you can search Embase, and you can search Cochrane. So these are the three major database which is recommended to search. And if you can have more additional database, that is well and good. So you can have Scopus, or you can have Sinar, or you can have even Google Scholar or CNK China, depends on your study topic. Now the question is that how you choose the database. That is very important. You can't simply choose some database and do. As I mentioned, the PubMed, Embase, and Cochrane is a kind of mandatory database which you need to search for sure. And the additional database depends on your topic. In the sense, suppose you are doing some nursing related interventions, or you are doing some nursing studies, then you need to search CINAR, which is a common database for nursing studies, which you need to do mandatory. And if you are doing some traditional medicine or Chinese medicine, then you need to do CNKI China database for sure. And then suppose another example, if I say, if you're doing some kind of psychological intervention or any kind of that related studies, then you need to search a database which is called it as psych info. That is also very mandatory. So this is the way how you look into the database, and this is the way how you choose the database. So that is the major thing which you need to think when you go for a literature search. And this is kind of call it as electronic database search. And another search which I we have is additional search. Additional search, you can look into different sources, and these sources we call it as gray literatures. Gray literatures are those resources which are not completely published as a full peer reviewed articles, so that are gray literatures. And there are a lot of resources for gray literatures. You can look into the open gray, you can look into the granite. And if it comes to India, we have something called as Shodhaganga. You can look into that, where you believe that many of the research has been not published, but there will be some kind of unpublished studies. So that is where you look into the gray literatures. And when it comes to the clinical trial, it is, or if you are doing something on efficacy of the drug, then it is mandatory that you should search into the clinicaltrial.gov as well. As well as if it comes to India, we have Indian database which is called a CTRI registry. So you need to search all these additional databases, or gray literatures databases, or pre peer reviewed databases, to make sure that you have collected all the enough information to continue your systematic review. So these are the some set of additional literatures which you can consider. Along with that, there is something called it as bibliographic analysis. Bibliographic analysis, if something like, we don't say bibliographic analysis, instead of that I can say that bibliographic search. Bibliographic search means what you do, you go back to the each article which you are included, or you have a kind of comprehensive review or narrative review which is already published, and you think that there will be a good amount of article which you can get from the reference list of that particular article. So what you can do, you can go to the individual reference of that article, and you can see that whether those articles are matching with your research topic or not. So this is another literature, another kind of search which you can do to find out more article for your systematic review. So these are the major three resources which we use for any kind of systematic review. First one, as I mentioned, it's electronic databases. Second one is gray literature databases, as well as the clinical trial registries. And the third one is you are looking into the reference list of the articles. So these are the major three databases which we take, or major three resources which we use for conducting a literature search. Now the question is that what you need to conduct a literature search. You need multiple things to conduct a literature search. The first thing you need is search term. Search term has other different synonyms, like there some people will say key terms, some people will say search terms, some will say entry terms. So there are different names for that. So search term is something, a term that is relevant or that is useful for locating your search studies. So that is call it as search terms. If I say one example, suppose you are doing something on cancer. So if you use only cancer, it will not retrieve all the studies which you need. Is some Because the reason is that some people can use another uh, you know terms for this particular condition. So if you are using cancer, somebody can use carcinoma, somebody can use tumor, somebody can use malignancy, somebody can use benign malignancy. So there are different terminologies for the cancer. So if you just use only the word cancer, it will not capture the whole study spectrum what you need. So that is where you need to use alternative terms, you need to use another key terms, you need to use another search terms for this particular individual term that you are going to use. So that's what I said an example. Like if you are doing a research on cancer, you can't use only cancer. You need to use different terms like carcinoma and other things. So now the thing is like from where you get these terms. You will get all these terms from different resources. You can get from the mesh terms. Mesh terms is something you will get from the PubMed, and you can get from the previous articles. If you are already having systematic reviews that is published on similar topics, you can get the mesh terms from there as well. Or you can get from M3 that is specific to the Embase as well. So this is the way to get more terminologies that will comprehensively help you to have more literatures in your systematic review. Now the question is that should I restrict only to the mesh? No, there is no need to do that. You can use as much as resources you want. The whole purpose is that you get as much as more terms which is related to your literature, sorry, systematic review topic. That is very important. So don't restrict into that. You can use any kind of resources to get more and more terms, but only thing is that it should serve your purpose. It should be useful for you to run your search. That's it. Then the next thing is called it as a Boolean operator. Boolean operator is something like adjective. It's something like we use adjective terms to connect two different terminologies. So here also it is something like that, where you have, like I said, you have multiple different terminologies. So what you need to do, you need to merge these terminologies. So to merge these terminologies, you will be using something called it as Boolean operator. So there are three major Boolean operators. One is or, one is and another one is not. So each Boolean operator is having its own purpose. And if if you are not using the correct Boolean operators in any of the position, then your whole search will collapse. It is not that you have to if you even mistakenly put a different Boolean operators even in one place of the whole search will collapse. So it is very important to understand the Boolean operators. So if I say, if now the question is that how you are going to use the Boolean operator. The Boolean operators have its own purpose, as I mentioned. So there are three Boolean operators: or, and not. The or will be used when you want to broaden your search. In the sense, I said an example, right? You want to search like cancer or carcinoma or malignancy. So you are going to broaden your search with multiple terms. That is where you are going to use the Boolean operator or. And there is something called as and will be used when you want to restrict your search. If I say one example, like now you search the whole different terminologies for the cancer. Now what happens when you only search that, you will be getting breast cancer, you'll be getting prostate cancer, you'll be getting lung cancer, you will be getting head and neck cancer. So you'll be getting a lot of different cancer which you are not looking into. Suppose you are only focused on lung cancer, what you need to do now, you have to search separately all the terminologies for lungs, like lung, respiratory, upper respiratory, all those terminology. Sorry, lower respiratory. So you have to search all the different terminologies for lungs and combine the cancer with the lungs. Why? Because you need to restrict your search only to the lung cancer. So that is the place where you use and the not will be used when you want to exclude some specific studies. Now you searched cancer first, then you searched lung second, and you merged lung and the cancer with and now you have everything lung cancer. But now what happened? You will have RCTs, you will have cohort studies, you will have other observational studies, and you will have case reports, everything, and review article as well. So suppose you don't want to look into the review articles and case report, you can exclude those articles using not. So you will search the review and you will search the uh, case report separately, and you will remove this particular uh, studies using not. So that is how you do your you use and sorry you use not. So this is the way how you do your literature search. So it is very important to understand which Boolean operators you should use and how you should use your Boolean operators. So that is very important. And uh, it will not come in a day or two. You need to keep practicing it. Sometimes it will go wrong, you need to understand. So that is very important. It's not just searching. You need to really understand, does it make sense? Okay, once you search, you just got 10 articles, so you need to ask, is it make sense? After searching like five or six databases, if you are getting only 10 articles, does it make sense, or is there anything wrong? So you need to go back and check your search strategy and see, is this good enough for us or not? And sometimes what happen, you don't get a good number of articles from your simple literature or database search. So you need to expand your search into the other resources as well. So that is how you do your validation check when you do the literature search. But these are the major Boolean operators which you use when you run your search. And the next one is something called it as truncation. Truncation is a kind of shortening of the term with using the root word. Root word in the sense, suppose you have many terms that start from a single word, like child, childhood, childlike, children, children's, all those terms. So each article will use different terminology. So you are not sure which one we want to use. So what we do, we will take that root word, something called as child, and we'll put a star mark. So that star mark is called it as truncation in the literature search. So that truncation will help you to expand all the terminologies following that. It can be anything. It can be childhood, or it can be childlike, or anything like that. So this is something which we use. So suppose we these are some truncations which you need to use when you search. But don't, if you are a beginner, or if you are a starting phase of your systematic review life, don't use truncation, it may go wrong. So once you get a good experience, hand experience in doing the literature search, once you are so comfortable in doing literature search, then you can use all these truncations and punctuations. There are some more additional marks which you can use. So if you see this one, when I search in PubMed using a truncation child star, you can see that the first article had child, it has childhood, it has children, it has children's hospital, it has child, it has all the different terminologies of child after that. So this I just kept an example to show you how this result will look like. So this is the way how you use truncation. But if you are not well advanced with the literature search, don't try truncation. You can have a basic search, and then once you have a good experience, then you can go with using truncation and other things. Otherwise, you use the basic terminologies or search terms and use the boolean operators to combine it. That's it. Okay. Then something called it as wildcard. If wildcard is represented by the hash mark or question mark, so wildcard is something like it is for something like the same word have different spellings or different usefulness. So suppose if you say one example, color, color can be used with color or color as well. So you get confused which one to use there. So what do? You put a truncation, sorry, wildcard instead of you. So you just get both articles. Same way for woman. Woman can be presented, if it is a plural or singular, it can be presented with a or e. So during that case, what you need to do, you need to use a wild card. So that is very important. So this is how you do a wild card in a search. But again, this also you use when you are so familiar with the literature search. Then there is something called it as code for phrase. This is very important. You need to use it as well in even in the initial days of search as well. But this is not mandatory for PubMed. The reason is that PubMed will take whole terms uh, from the Boolean operators. In the sense, suppose you put cardiovascular disease, PubMed will take cardiovascular disease as a whole term, even you are not putting a bracket. But what happened in Embase as well? Embase is fine. Embase you need to put an apostrophe mark, but when it comes to Scopus, you need to put that brackets, which is called as code for the phrase. If you are not using that, then what happened? The Scopus will take cardiovascular as separate term and disease as separate term. So that is the reason you need to put a bracket when you have a single term having two part. So that is very important, like breast cancer or cardiovascular disease, or anything that is having two different terminologies or between a space, you need to use a phrase. And this is very important when it comes to Scopus. And when it comes to Embase, you'll put an apostrophe before C and after E in the cardiovascular disease. So it will be considered as a single term. And the PubMed, it doesn't matter whether you put as apostrophe or don't put an apostrophe, it doesn't matter. It will capture from the Boolean operators. So one term until the next Boolean operators will be considered as a single term in the PubMed. So it's not a matter though. But still, it's good to use the brackets for a term which is having two parts. Then the search strategy will come. The search strategy will be like, you have to keep all terminologies and you need to put the Boolean operator. So you search first part. So there are some people that do whole search together. Okay, run everything. No, it is not a good idea to do. So instead of that, what you need to do, search only the one concept at a time. In the sense, if you are searching, like I said, example, right? If you are searching cancer, only search cancer. Don't bring lung inside that at this moment. So first you search only cancer, then you search lung separately, Then you search review and case report separately. Then you start merging with the boolean operator. So you searched cancer separately with all the or terms. Then you searched lung separately with all the or terms. Now you combine lung and cancer together. So that is the best way to have. So the search number one should be only cancer. Search number two should be only the lung. Then search number three you can combine one and two. So that is the best way to do. It is recommended, not mandatory. It's up to you which one you want to use. But this is the best way, which is easy for you to refine. Suppose something goes wrong, it will be easy for you to refine. Otherwise, in a single search, if you run everything, then if you don't even understand if something goes wrong or not. So that is the best way. It is a recommended way to do the search. And yeah, it is very important to mark whether you are using any boolean operators, that should be correct. If you are using any truncation, that should be correct. If you are using any wildcard, that should be correct. If you are using any kind of cards, that should be very clear. So it is very important. And your search strategy should be as broad as possible, and it should be able to retrieve the maximum possible studies from a literature, and it should be reproducible and accurate. It's not just just for the sake of doing search or do search something and you put some numbers. No, it is very wrong. The reason is that when you submit to the journal, there are chances that some good reviewers, even I do that sometime, they will go back to the PubMed and they will reciprocate your search. They will try to reproduce your search. And if it is a small number of changes, it obviously can happen because they had done the systematic review few months back, and now the peer review is happening after a few months. So there will be a less number of difference will be there. But if the difference is too huge, then there will be a red flag. So obviously the paper will get rejected. So it's not just simply putting some number. You need to correctly document each search, how many number of studies you got, when how many number of studies you got, when it combined, everything should be well reported in the Prisma. And for a good systematic review, you have to produce whole literature search result in the supplementary as well. So that is very important. You should be reproducible, it should be accurate. That is very important. So once you did your search, this is the way how you write your search strategy part in your paper. You can just write like a thorough literature search were undertaken in the following database like PubMed, Web of Science, Corpus, Embase, and Cochrane Library. And you need to tell that from which date to which date you have searched. That is very important. So you can put a month and year of the search. Then you have to tell that what are the different terminologies which you used for the literature search, and how you have combined, what boolean operator you have used, and did you use any kind of additional databases. So one of our study, we mentioned this way. We have searched PubMed, Web of Science, Corpus, Embase, and Cochrane Library to find the relevant literature that report this particular outcome in that particular population. And we searched until June 2022. And then we said that what was the key strategy which we used. We employed the population exposure outcome framework to build our search, and we used the relevant key terms and mesh terms of the following four categories. So we used the mesh terms for paraquet, predictors, prognoses, and biochemical markers, and these each was combined with the Boolean operators or, and then different categories were combined with the and. So that is the way you need to clearly write how you did your search strategy. Then we done a snowball search for all the references of the included studies, and we even look into clinical trial registries and NIH registries or for the unpublished studies. And then we provided a comprehensive search approach in the supplementary file. So that is the way how you should do when you run your literature search and report in the method. And the other way, the almost same. Another quote how we written: an extensive literature search was performed using proper search strategy in electronic databases such as PubMed, Cochrane's Corpus from inception to September 2019. A search was updated in 2020. This is very important. So yeah, intentionally I kept this mark. The reason is that what happened when you run a search today, it is mandatory that your paper should be published within 6 months. So you should complete the whole work within 6 months, and then you should, submit your paper within 6 months. If you are unable to do that, then you need to update your search. You need to run the search again after 6 months to see is there any paper has been recently published or not. I do recommend not only after 6 months, before you submit your paper, you need to run the search. We usually do that. The reason is that okay, you did your literature search today, you conducted the whole systematic review, it may take another 4 to 5 months. So after 4 to 5 months, what happens in between, there will be chances that there would be some papers as new pap has been already published, which you didn't capture in your search. So when you submit to the journal, the reviewer will be knowing about this because he is an expert in the field. So he will be surprised to not to see that particular paper which is recently published in your systematic review. So he may reject your paper. So to avoid that situation, it is always recommended before you, once you complete the whole thing, before you finally prepare your manuscript, or before your final check of the manuscript, before you submit to the journal, it is important to update your search to see that is there any new paper has been published or not. So that is very important. So if you are done, see, our search has done in September 2019, but we took a long time to complete our systematic review. So we updated our search in 2020 before even we submit the paper into the journal. So that is very important. And if you are updated your search, then you need to give that in the uh, writing part of your manuscript. You need to say that when you updated your search. That is very important. So that is something important. So this is all about the literature search. So if you have any question, I'm more than happy to take the question, and we can discuss further. Over to you, Vignesh.
If there is no question, you can continue, Dr. Rashid.
So do you want me to have a demo?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, perfect. Give me 1 minute. Let me just set up that. Can you confirm you're able to see my screen?
Yeah, Rashid, we can see your screen.
It's something called as valproic acid and Stevens-Johnson syndrome, right?
Right, right, yes.
Perfect. So this was a study which we conducted long back in 2019 sometime. So you can see the literature part, what we have written here. You see that we searched PubMed without any language restriction from inception to 2017 and updated in 2018 using the search terms of valproic acid and Stevens-Johnson syndrome. So I was doing something on valproic acid and Stevens-Johnson syndrome to see that whether valproic acid can cause the Stevens-Johnson syndrome. So that was my research question, and you can see that we have done a literature search like this, and this is what I was telling. So what I did, I have done the search first using all the different terminologies for Stevens-Johnson syndrome. You can see that here is right. So search Stevens-Johnson syndrome, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, different alternative terminologies, then toxic epidermal necrolysis spectrum, Then again, Steven-Johnson syndrome, toxic abdomen necrolysis, so toxic abdomen necrolysis. So you can see the a good amount of number of terminologies for this particular condition. So you have to use drug-induced Steven-Johnson syndrome, then drug-induced toxic reaction, all those things. So you see, uh, then we got about 6744. So that was related to the outcome. Then what I did, I just simply searched just Steven Johnson syndrome. So I got about 5800. Then we have combined with uh, both of these two because they are coming from same kind of thing. So you see here, this is very important. See here, it is a Steven Johnson syndrome, and you are combining with another terminology of Steven Johnson syndrome. So during that time, you need to use the terminology, call it as OR, the Boolean operators OR. The reason is that you are broadening your search. You are using the one single particular thing and you are broadening your search. So you need to use the terminology OR. Then you see the same way. I have separately searched Steven Johnson syndrome and these both are same. I need to broaden my search. So again, I used OR here. So that is the next thing which we did. Then I searched same way valproic acid separately and different terminologies of valproic acid. And you can see that I have combined this with 4 or 5. So this is the way how I have combined the terms of valproic acid. Now the thing is like you have terminologies for you have searched for the valproic acid and you have searched for the Steven Johnson syndrome separately. Now you have both. Now you need the studies that discuss on Steven Johnson syndrome and the valproic acid. Then you need to use the Boolean operator and. Why? Because you are narrowing down the whole Steven Johnson syndrome into only valproic acid. So you need to use the and to narrow down your search. So you can see that difference here. So when you broaden the search, you can see that you see when you search only the Steven Johnson syndrome, it was just 5800, and when you broaden your search, you can see the number is increasing. The same way here, you just had 14,000 when you searched only the valproic acid, and you got more number when you broaden your search. So when you broaden your search, that means you are using or Boolean operator, your number will keep increasing. But if you see here, you used combined, that means you used and, you can see that the search will get narrowed and the number of article will come down. So it depends on your research question, depends on your, it can be hundreds, it can be thousands, depends on that, it will keep changing. So this is the way how you do literature search. And if you just copy paste this exactly into the this one, it will be same as it is. So that is the way how you do the literature search. And this is the basic, and this is in the PubMed, and even in the Scopus also almost same. So I can show you an example of Scopus search. Give me 1 minute. Just getting in. It's taking so much of time. How about Embase? Yeah, Scopus is taking time. Meanwhile, I'll show you the Embase one. So Embase almost same approach. Suppose the same thing I'm going to search. You see the valproic acid. So it will show you what you want to use, whether you want to use valproate semi sodium or you want to use valproic acid. So I use valproic acid. Okay. So this is the way how you get more articles to map different options. So if I search valproic acid, you see I got this many articles. Now you can use any other terminologies for the valproic acid using or. You can keep adding like or you can ask sodium valproate. You can see the sodium valproate, semi-sodium. You can keep adding the terminologies. You see, if you keep add each term, it will keep increase. You see, here it was 86,000, now it became 90,000. So that is the reason I said you that you need to find out more terms as much as possible. Now you are able to get more terms. Now I'm searching for Steven Johnson syndrome. Steven Johnson syndrome. I'm searching for Steven Johnson syndrome. I got this many articles, and I'm going to add more terminologies. Toxic epidermal necrolysis, epidermal necrolysis. So I get to, you see, 15,000 become 21,000. Now the thing is that in Scopus you don't have to add yourself. You can just click these two. Now I'm combining valproic acid terminologies alone. So I use over here. I just combined them. That's done. Now I'm using Steven Johnson syndrome terms. I combined with or. That is done. Now I got both of them. Now I'm going to combine Steven Johnson syndrome and valproic acid. Since there are different terminologies, I'll be using and here. That's it. So I'll be using and I'll getting the final result here. So that's what I said. It depends on the topic. The number will change. The articles will number will change. It will keep changing. So you can see that, you see, the all the articles will be talking on the Steven Johnson syndrome that is related to the valproic acid. So this valproic acid, you can see that levetiracetam and all, but this will be inside somewhere in the paper. It has mentioned valproic acid. So that is very important. So is there any questions? I'll stop at this moment. Vignesh?
Rashid, you can continue. Participants, if you have any questions, please ask.
So, if you don't have any more questions, this is the whole thing about the literature search. And you use the same approach which I shown you now in PubMed and Embase in any databases which you want to search. But sometime you need to really look into some specific aspect. Like I said, in the PubMed you don't have to use the apostrophe, but when you search in the Embase you need to use that apostrophe mark. So something like that. Otherwise you use the same approach. Keywords, boolean operators, combining everything is same across any databases which you search. So if you have any question, I'm more than happy to answer. If you don't have any questions, I'll stop the session, and you can, if you have to get back to me, you can get back to me anytime. No problem. So I'll stop my part now and I'll hand over to the organizers. Yes, Amata, please go ahead. Yes, Amata, we can't hear you. Yeah, there was a question from Prashant. Can we generate hypothesis based on the systematic review? Uh, so, if you want to generate hypothesis based on systematic review, uh, that is called it as scoping review, where you can have a space to generate some hypothesis out of your research work. But if there is a good amount of articles already existing on a specific topic, then you can't generate hypothesis. So if I say one example, okay, in the initial days of COVID, somewhere in 2019 December or 2020 initial days, if you are doing something on COVID, like we had a lot of ideas, people were telling this drug can be used, that drug can be used. So when you have that kind of situation where you don't have enough evidence, and it's all like kind of hypothesis driven, then you can do a quick systematic review, and you can generate the hypothesis, or you can generate the ideas, and you can uh, you know write your own opinion on that particular things, or recommendation based on what you got. It is not mandatory that you should search only the human studies or clinical studies. You can use any kind of literatures and search, but it should be very strong enough to put out your hypothesis, and that is called it as something called as scoping review. So you can do them, and you can get you can do that hypothesis out of systematic review, but it does not no more call it as systematic review. It will be called it as scoping review. So that is the difference in the. Yeah, we have a question how we can get the mesh terms. Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I'll go back here. I think you are seeing my screen now. Can you confirm? So what you need
Yes,
to
we can see.
do to get to the synonyms or get the mesh terms, if it is in the PubMed, as I mentioned, you need to go to PubMed. Okay, you need to go to the PubMed, and in the PubMed there is something called as, if you just go below, there is something called as mesh. You can see that mesh here. So suppose I'm looking for cancer. I'll put cancer. I'll search cancer. It will come neoplasm. So now cancer is no more using as cancer, it will be used as neoplasm. And if you open, you see, you will get all the terminologies for that. So that is the way how you get more terms for the search, and this is the way how you get different terminologies. So this is, you see the entry terms, right? So you see everything here. Suppose you want specific cancer, you want to have something specific cancer, so you can look back. Suppose there will be different type of cancer here, so you can use that. Suppose you are looking only at the cancer pain, then you can open that one, then you will get all the terminologies for the cancer pain. So this is the way how you take the mesh terms from the PubMed. So the same way for Embase as well, there is something called as M-tree. Let me check where is M-tree. If you just go to Embase, and you can use M-tree. Yeah, here is, you can see M-tree here, you right? See, I search cancer. Okay, I use cancer. I get all the terminologies here, you see. So this is the way how you do that. That's it. So yeah, I think I answered your question. So other than that, you can go to the previously published papers, and you can get more terminologies from there. That's the way how you should do that. Anyone else? Any questions? Can we do the systematic review and meta-analysis of animal studies, for example, in any receptor knockout studies and contradiction with the others? Uh, you can do a systematic review and meta-analysis on animal studies, but your base should be very strong. Your understanding should be very strong. Your interpretation should be very strong, and your statistical analysis method should be very strong. The reason why I say that is that the systematic review and related analysis, meta-analysis, everything is fully around the clinical studies. But obviously, you can expand that into animal studies. I recently did one of the, like, I used mice studies, or murine you call. I'm not good in preclinical, but marine studies, yes, marine studies, all were mice studies. Okay, so what they did, we checked the uh, impact of microplastics on the toxicities in animal models. So that's what we basically did. So we did that, and initially when I was in the discussion, I was keep telling the team that I'm not sure whether we can have the meta-analysis or even we can have a good systematic review out of that, because I was not familiar with these kind of studies so far. But we did it, we got a good result, but we could not do the meta-analysis. The reason is that they were using different types of mice. There was some genus, right? I am not good in that, some numbers like T3 RC mice, something like that. So they were using different type of rat. They were using different type of administration, because some were using the oral administration of the microplastics, some were using the paw administrations and different type of administration. And other problem is like their outcome definition were different. Some were using specific outcomes, some were using another outcomes, so that was different. And their measurement was different, and their control group was different, because some were using different doses of the microplastics, some were using different amount of microplastics, some were using controls, some were using distilled water. So there was different controls. So basically there was high heterogeneity, means a lot of dissimilarities between the studies, where we cannot conduct a meta-analysis. To conduct a meta-analysis, you should have a similarity, which we call it as homogeneity. So you should have a homogeneity. There should not be much heterogeneity. So whenever there is a high heterogeneity, we don't do meta-analysis anymore. But we can do the systematic review if your base is strong. So basically what I'm saying, we did that, but it took a long time, because either your clinical team should be strong, or your statistics team should be strong, or the interpretation team should be strong to correctly interpret what you get. So this is about, we can do the systematic review on animal studies, no doubt. And even like you said, receptor knockout, you can do that, no worries on that. But contradiction with others, I didn't understood what you mean by that. If you can explain more on that, then I can answer more about that. So the next question from Amata is that how many minimum articles which we need to start a systematic review screening? To start a systematic review screening, there is nothing like a minimum number. How much ever you get from the individual databases, that is good enough to start a screening. But to do a systematic review, it depends on your topic. Okay. uh, so I will go in this way. To do a meta-analysis, you need at least two studies that should be heterogeneous. Heterogeneous in the sense the result should be different. Suppose you finally everything you did, finally you got only two studies. Okay, you got only two studies, and if to both of them are saying that the drug is significantly improving the outcomes, then you don't have to do a meta-analysis, because even if you do a meta-analysis, you are going to get the same result. But one of the study is telling that the drug is improving the effect, and another study is telling that drug is deteriorating the effect. Then you can do a meta-analysis to understand what exactly is happening. So to do a meta-analysis, at the end of, I'm not talking about the screening you have to do how much ever the article you got from the databases. To do final meta-analysis, you should have at least two studies. To do a systematic review, you can do a systematic review with even zero studies. You don't even have to do, even you don't have to do a single study in the final analysis. I'm not talking about the screening. You should do the proper literature search. You should do the screening of every individual study that you get from the databases. At the end, if you are getting even zero studies, still you can publish that paper by saying that there is no single study on this particular topic. But you should do all the steps. You should have a research question, you should have a protocol developed, you should register the protocol, you should have a proper team, you should conduct the literature search in all the major databases, you should look for gray literature, you should screen the studies, you should extract the data, and then you are realizing that there is no single study, still you can publish because your effort should not go waste. And these kind of reviews are called it as empty reviews. There is no single study on that particular topic. So there obviously you can publish it even with zero studies, but your all process should be transparent, it should be strong. And tomorrow you published with zero studies, and tomorrow nobody should question you, yeah, there are studies. So if you can confirm that there is no single study, still you can publish the paper. There's nothing like that. But to do a meta-analysis, you need at least two studies. That is the answer for that. Yeah, that is where you need a systematic review or scoping review. So you need to dig further why that one author is telling that it is uh, leading to inhibition of disease, and another one is telling that it is improving the disease. You need to dig into that further. What is the reason? Why it is important? Is there any reason because of the mice they are used, or because of the animals which they are using, or because of the mechanism of action of their administration? Because sometimes what happen, one study is administering the drug in the oral form, and another drug is another study is administering in intramuscular form, then it can cause different results. So you need to dig into that further, you need to explore why it might be, then you need to answer that question. Obviously that is when there is a contradiction in the result, that is where you need to conduct a systematic review and meta-analysis, if or scoping review, whatever it is. If every study is telling that it is inhibiting the disease, then you don't have to do a new review, because every study is telling the same. Even if you do a new systematic review, the answer will be same, right? Inhibition of disease. But when there is a contradiction in the result, when there is a difference in opinion, that is where you need to do a systematic review and meta-analysis to identify what is the reason for that, and how we can improve that. Obviously that is the answer for that. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. If there is no more question, I'll stop at this moment. And if you want to reach out for any more future discussion, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you so much, and have a good night.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid. Participants, if you don't have any questions, I think it's time to close the session. In case if you have any questions in the future, he will be available through his email. I will share his email to you. So in the future, if you have any doubts, feel free to reach out to him. Dr. Rashid, thank you for the insightful session. We will see you in the next session.
Sure. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Have a good night.
Thank you
Bye.
all. Yeah. Bye. Bye, everyone.